I'm kind of like I think people like Michael as a kind of a unique kind of character.
And I
love you just see how games of possession so intense, how they mean more.
I'm not putting him on.
I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
Hello and welcome to the Nothing But Respect podcast. My name is Harry Krinsky. I am joined as always by Patrick Redford, and we were supposed to have just our lawyer Sportello on just to talk about the doldrums of basketball, but something happened. So let me just walk you guys through this. So a few days ago, the Ball podcast went down to New Orleans for their yearly tradition of watching the Sixers and the Pelicans in a regular season game and trying to Havana Syndrome Daryl Morey with the classic Havana Syndrome high-pitched ringing sound sort of substituted for a string of surprising and heterodox Paul George trades on repeat in Daryl's ear. And everything was going well until Zion subbed out at the 11-minute mark of the fourth. And Sam Sheehan, the co-host of the Ball podcast, became enraged. "They're tanking," he muttered. "They're tanking." Others tried to calm Sam down, explaining that the Pelicans were up 15 and that they don't have their pick because of the excellent trade Joe Dumars made at the start of the season to acquire the rhizomatic big man Derek Queen. Sam wouldn't have it. He walked outside the arena and Laura Loomer style chained himself to gate 6-7, the VIP players entrance, where he demanded that Silver, quote, "flatten the lottery odds or something really bad is going to happen." New Orleans podcast police department arrived shortly after to detain him and put him in podcast jail. That is when our lawyer, Sportello, sprang into action and was able to post bail. Interestingly enough, the New Orleans Police Department has a alternative bail sentencing program where you can trade 350 new Patreon subscribers for bail, which the Ball podcast diverted from the Ball Patreon to the New Orleans Police Department Patreon. So instead of just Sportello, we actually have and the newly liberated Sam Sheehan. It's really great to have you guys both on.
Free Sam till it's backwards. I know, the first piece of advice that lawyers give, and it's not just a meme, it is true, is do not speak to police. Mm-hmm. And so I was heartbroken when I pulled up and the podcast police had Sam in cuffs and his Joker makeup was starting to fray a little bit at the sides, but what I noticed was that those Joker lips were moving and I was like, "Oh no, Sam, don't talk. We can beat this case if you don't say anything." But what he kept repeating to the police was, "I'd give Marcus Smart the decoy again. I'd give Smart the decoy again." And so ultimately, I don't think it hurt this case specifically, but a word to the wise, Sam, in the future.
I mean, it's good that you told me that. Just the problem is I am a natural podcaster at heart. And I know that these guys look, I've seen The Wire. Okay. I know these guys aren't my friends. Okay. That said, but
they are complicated characters, but just not your friends.
When they pulled out the microphone and asked how many bodies is an acceptable body count for a young female, I felt that I had to contribute, and that as a podcaster, that's a topic that not a lot of podcasts have really covered. So I just felt like I had an opportunity to really show that in there. But no, thank you so much to for getting me out of there. Now I legally cannot leave the state of Louisiana for a little bit. But so it's great that we were able to kind of make this work with the podcast though. So.
After 2020, of course, I was all in on abolishing the podcast police. But then during the research for the House of Highlights episode, of course, I saw them pulling up to a pickup game and sharing riffs with some young hoopers and young podcasters to be. And actually, I kind of think we got to hear both sides on this one. Wow.
There is this is so annoying, but when you talk about Miranda rights in the law, there is this whole category of legal gray area that are things that are not questions, but statements that are likely to produce an incriminating answer. So if cops are like, "I wonder where that gun is," and the guy in the back says, that type of shit. And I love the idea of the podcast police just being like, "Let's just name some irrational confidence guys." And then Sam's like, "Me."
His statement on Jamal Crawford was produced under duress, asking counsel to strike that from the record.
I'm suppressing Sam calling the Nets a quote cursed organization.
Well, that's just fact. I mean, I feel like I can't get in trouble for right. Like it's the bulletproof.
Well, there was a big scandal
against slander.
ProPublica had this whole story about how the podcast police were forcing people they arrested to produce segments where they proposed tanking reforms over and over again. It was like sort of, I mean, it really just shows you how there's like a public-private partnership where like the industrial complex needed more proposed solutions to tanking. And the cops were like, I think they had a hidden camera in there where people had drawn the draft wheel and had shown that to people under arrest. And were like, we need you to read this statement in front of the camera and maybe things will go well for you. So
I just love the idea that solitary confinement in podcast jail is just like the empty seat on the Charlie Kirk show. Like, you just go sit at the desk.
I mean, you guys laugh, but I think that was like a pretty big issue in the Kamala Harris when she was running for governor, was kind of the incarceration of some of these young podcasters and how they have them producing, labor for these institutions at cost,
Right.
that are not market value. So like, a lot of those Ringer employees are actually people who have been arrested and are assigned work jobs, bear that in mind the next time you're being mean to a Ringer staffer.
Well, listen, we joke you were detained really you were detained by Mother Nature because of the blizzards going through the East Coast right now, but it's fortuitous because you wrote, Sam, a great piece about kind of, and it's very rare. I mean, I was going to say you wrote a great piece about tanking, but that is almost like everybody's ears shut up. It's really more like a great piece about what we are talking about when we are talking about the tanking problem. Mm-hmm. And I we're all, I think the Nothing But Respect stance is I don't care about tanking. Yeah. Not my problem. My team is struggling to be 500. It's not something I struggle with. But I think the part that I want to start with is like you framed tanking as basically a March problem. Like it has more to do with the environment of March media. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an interesting place to start. So like, can you talk a little bit about the thought behind making this piece? And
yeah, we never hear about this shit like in December or even mm-hmm. or even like January. And the reason why is because everyone's paying attention to like other shit. Like this is not, there is the calendar year, how the NBA calendar year works. And I think it's not a mistake that this is kind of where all this comes to a head, is you have the Super Bowl in early February. There's a giant influx of people who I would call bad faith viewers of the NBA, who basically want to confirm to themselves that hockey guys are tougher or like football players are better at this. And so they all come in and they see and it just kind of becomes like a narrative. The eye of Sauron of national sports media kind of turns on the NBA at that point in time. And it is right before the NBA All-Star break, the All-Star game being something that across sports, nobody fucking cares about. Like the Pro Bowl is a fucking flag football game. But there is like some sort of like indoctrination that like for whatever reason, the NBA guys have to play hard in the NBA All-Star game for like whatever reason. And it always kicks off this narrative that is like, I'm just going to say it. It kind of has some pretty severe racial overtones about like how hard like NBA players are willing to work and what their like, work ethic is and playing the games and all of these things. And tanking kind of coincides with, it's a two-part problem where you have, I think tanking is being elevated to distract from the more obvious problem, which is that guys are getting injured, particularly stars, at a level that they didn't used to. And that is what's driving people away, is that they turn on a national TV game and like they're expecting Steph Curry versus Wemby, and what they get instead is like Keldon Johnson versus Brandon Podziemski, mm-hmm. And that is the bigger issue, but it's not something that the league can address because they're not going to get rid of games, because the obvious clear solution to that is to shrink the season, get rid of those games. And so now what we have left is the only other thing you do is smash the moral panic button and bring up tanking and kind of center the conversation around tanking as the reason why the NBA product is dog shit in March, when that is like absolutely not true. A Jazz Magic game, I'm sorry, it's dog shit in January, it's dog shit in February, it's gonna be dog shit in March. Like, there's not
it's like, oh, the Suboxone's getting weaker. It's like, what are you talking about?
I was talking to Harry about this yesterday, and like, what so much of the tanking discourse, which I gotta say, I thought the piece was great. I think your analysis is spot on. What it presupposes is kind of this like noble savage view of the fan, where like the person making the case is like, okay, none of these people in Sacramento or Brooklyn or whatever understand like that if you lose games, you get a better draft pick. So like they are spending their hard-earned $5s of dollars to go to these NBA games. And all of a sudden they see that Killian Hayes and Patrick Baldwin Jr. are running 75 straight pick and rolls. And they just throw up their hands like, why is this happening to me? Is this what it's always going to be like? When like every fan that I know yesterday when the Kings beat the Grizzlies was like, put the beam away forever. They got to never play Russell Westbrook again. We need to lose. Like everyone understands what the deal is, right?
Yeah, it's like, what are kids going to learn from this? It's like, I don't know, like open a Roth IRA. Like it's like you know, sometimes short-term struggle is good for the future. Like it's a great lesson for kids to learn. But it is like something you said, Sam, that I think is also spot on is like the bad faith fans flocking in. Mm-hmm. More specifically than that too, it's the bad faith gamblers, right? It's like people have no better shit to gamble on because like football's done and they're gearing up for March Madness, at which point famously the tanking discourse kind of ends because everyone's too busy soy facing to March Madness. But it's like, to the extent that anyone is actually upset about players getting pulled, it's degenerate gamblers who had a prop or some sort of like screwy Jazz bet that doesn't hit because they pull Laurie in the fourth quarter. I will say, not to engage in pointing fingers tanking, although I do think if anyone's allowed to do it, it is a fan of a different tanking team. I think the only time you can do tanking discourse is if you are trying to get to the bottom as well and you think like what the Wizards are doing is repulsive. But I love the idea that the Jazz have just become like the Istanbul of the NBA, where it's like you go to the Jazz and then in February they like fix your hairline and they're like correcting Nurk's sleep apnea right now. Like it's so cool. Like I think like Keontae George is getting leg lengthening surgery right now. Like you know, Lowry's on peptides, the whole thing. It's just like there's a reason all the rehabs are in Utah. It's a nice place to kind of be on the men.
Svi Mihailuk got the handsome Squidward surgery.
I was dying.
Double jaw implant.
I was dying specifically at the Nurkic thing because when the original Utah Jazz moral panic started, it was like this picture of like they can you believe they yanked Yusuf Nurkic? It's like that guy sucks. This guy's helping you win games.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That's one of the things that also drives me crazy about this tanking discourse is you're assuming that them playing dog shit older veterans is going to be worse for them than these guys on the end of their bench. And more often than not, those guys are doing better. This has happened to the Wizards a couple of times where they've pulled their bad players and the guys on the deep bench have been pretty fucking good. So it's not a real problem in like the other thing I want to like hop on the you know, again, I think the noble savage view of the fans is another one. You're also assuming that like somebody is like Fry from fucking Futurama and they bought tickets to the game like sight unseen and are going to be like completely blown away by like what's going on. Like a Nets fan is getting in there and being like, hey, there's no Durant or Harden. What the fuck is this?
It's like, yeah, that dude's a tourist from Estonia. He doesn't know who Michael Porter Jr. is.
Nobody knows any of the like everybody knows it's baked into the ticket prices. Like people aren't offended when those guys are pulled because it's basically it's a bad NBA team. It's basically a glorified minor league team where it's something fun to do. It's like an excuse to day drink. It's something to bring your kids to. It's whatever the case is. Nobody is pissed off about like, oh fuck, there goes Keyshawn George. Now I have to watch the other Champagny brother. Like nobody fucking cares about that. Everyone's like blacked out or a demon intern like figuring out, oh God, how do I keep my senator's name out of the Epstein files? Like nobody in the Wizards cares about that.
Also, like, if you want to expand the definition of tanking to include like the Bulls and the Pelicans and like the Bucks, you still have like 2/3 of the league that's like playing games that matter. Like, did any of you guys watch like Pistons Spurs yesterday? It was fucking awesome. They were just beating the shit out of each other. It was so cool. Like, they're all trying super, super hard. And that's that's one game of a 3-game night where the other two were like kind of dog shit, but still it's like, I think that basically brings us back to this being like a content problem first and foremost, where like there is this idea that like we don't have stuff to talk about, and so we have to kind of talk about this. And like obviously we're now doing the meta narrative version of this, but when we do it, it's like charming and delightful. So
yeah, it's like, why do you think you brought us on? There's not shit to talk about basketball right now. Time to bring on the 2 basketball guys who don't watch or talk about basketball.
However, the difference is also we are correct. And we have the moral arc of the universe bends towards those of us who don't like tanking. I guess what offends me so much about this is I think this has been like the best NBA season in like years. I think there's so many good teams. There's so many fun styles. All the good teams, nobody really plays the same like anymore. Like there was kind of like when the Warriors were good, everybody was trying to be the Warriors and being shitty at it, and then the Warriors would just win. This is like, we have a bunch of different ways of playing. A lot of the games are like really fun. It's like really just guys are missing games. The season should only be 60 games long. But part of the thing in this piece is I basically proved that like 75% of the time you're finishing within 1 or 2 spots of where you are at the All-Star break. So like we, we don't really need to be doing this. Or it's not the All-Star break, March 1st. But yeah, it is a fucking narrative problem, and it's really about people needing something to talk about when the games stop being important, which is now, because the games aren't really important.
I have something to say about that later, I think, when we get into some other things. But one galaxy brain take I want to offer right now, pro tanking, is that to the extent that we all acknowledge that tanking is just like strictly a discourse problem, and any move to fix it is insane because it is the definition of making policy out of a discourse problem. We're all familiar with the concept of blowback. Noah Colwyn's been on the show many times. But to the extent that the premise of blowback is that there nothing that the United States does foreign policy wise happens in a vacuum, but rather every move by the US State Department creates the preconditions for the next one, and it all justifies itself. I want to suggest that tanking is necessary to support not only the tanking discourse, but also the blowback discourse that you don't realize, which is that guy is secretly a problem. Because if you don't have Mickey Mouse March, you don't remember that year, the COVID year, that just gave Ball Don't Stop ammunition for the next 5 years to be like, low key, no one can fuck with Kemba because he was playing against like your uncle.
The streets remember TJ Warren, and not just the streets of Athens where he currently plays.
It's like you need these months to create all of the engagement farming remember a guy accounts.
Right.
Without these, it will not happen. I think there are a lot of blue checks who depend upon a fake month of the year. And if tanking is what is necessary to make that happen, to make it such that, you can have, there's the one famous 50 ball from like the funniest fucking player. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sadiq Bey.
Yeah, Sadiq Bey.
It's not Brewer or Bay. It's it might be Alonzo.
Toronto did.
I think I'm thinking about Alonzo Trier.
Okay.
No, Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn had a truly Mickey Mouse.
Shout out Malachi Flynn.
You mean Ball Don't Stop 2023 Pro-Am MVP Malachi Flynn.
Yes, dude. Watching him totally abandon Malachi Flynn like he's one of like the old punch dolls for Peyton Pritchard now is so funny, dude. Ball Don't Stop walking around the ape enclosure with his Peyton Pritchard doll being like, no one can hang with him, and then forcing Peyton's leg around to be a hug.
I think that's it. That all political metaphors aside, you're right in that like whether or not tanking is good or bad, is sort of ancillary to like it. You can argue about it. Is sort of the the thing. It's funny. So something I do feel like something has shifted this year with the tanking debate. This was one of the first times, this is anecdotally, but where I would like peruse my favorite podcasts, like, well, let's look at Zach Lowe or whatever, and it'll be like tanking is on the thing, on the ticker of what the episode's about, and I'm like, no way, I'm done. I'm like, I've seen enough. And it's funny to think about it in the history of podcasts. I've thought about this where like there was a huge strategic value of sports podcasts early on related to TV because there was more discourse that people wanted to have than the top-down TV was able to provide. Like there was like all this stuff in between. Like we can go for an hour and a half on fake trades. Like that's amazing. And they're only doing 7 minutes of basketball on SportsCenter. That has now flipped where there's so much money into podcasting that all these shows need to do 2 or 3 times a week that there's too much. Like it's just now a podcast as a medium needs to kind of make up stuff. And I've long felt, and I think we all intuitively understand this, that there is exactly one 60-minute podcast episode worth of stuff that happens in an NBA week. And so the idea of doing a second one is just like you just start grasping for straws and you find yourself being like, is tanking good or bad?
And that brings us to our next topic, which is we did 1 through 5 last week. We're now doing 6 through 15 of our most improved players, 2/3 of the season check-in.
Yeah. I just love the idea of Zach Lowe going like How Long Gone style. It's like, all right, this week we have Kazi David. It's like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Cade was great last night. All right, anyway, your new album is out. And
so it's a book and a podcast?
yeah, Zach Lowe. This week, looks maxer. My dad's an English teacher. I'd never learned that one.
So clavicular. You tell me that you've been look-smogging. I don't know. My dad was an English teacher. I don't know about mogging. I've never heard of this. Normally, the only thing I'm mogging is a mug of beer right before I go to bed. And I'm drinking 6 of those every night.
Chester maxing. What is that? Jokic?
Wait, Harry, I want to transition us into your Rich Paul story. Speaking of podcasts,
oh, yeah,
I feel like the premise of that story you wrote for Defector, which was great, was like kind of advancing a lot of the things we're talking about and like putting it in blog form. And I really like the blog. But I just do have to say, I got some feedback for you from Defector's editor-in-chief, Tom Lay.
I need to hear about this. Yes, I've heard that the streets are not accepting that we live in a neo-orality based tradition these days.
Yeah, they didn't read that Baffler story. They think this literary shit is real. Thursday, February 19th, 9:50 a.m. Direct message from Tom Lay. Okay, funny thing about Harry blog is that it turned out pretty well, but he absolutely cannot spell anyone's name correctly ever. He then follows up. At one point, I thought I was being pranked. I'm now imagining what your show rundowns are looking like, which is, I gotta say, he doesn't understand. It's all about the oral tradition. And you can spell now. That's subjective noun. Spell it however you want, right, Harry?
I got into this business because I can't. When I was in 4th grade, my handwriting was so bad that they gave me a word processor, which was basically a keyboard with a calculator, way you interact with it, but it was like a full keyboard and it had spell check on it. So I am like a lab mouse A/B test. Like I stopped using my brain for spelling at age 11, and I can see meaning in things you guys don't even understand because I'm like not in the literary. I'm like, things aren't working temporally to me. Things can be spelled differently at different times. Like and look, I understand Tom needs to correct my stuff there, but that's just yeah. But no, I last thing I'll say is I felt bad because I understand that not everybody is gifted like me and can't see stuff like this as like synesthetically. I usually edit at the very, very end, but I forgot that I was interacting with like a real media company and like a smart guy who would adjust my stuff. And so I turned in my first draft and then I turned it back and it's like, looks like it has been like massacred. Like it looked like the Epstein dogs, like redacted things all around. And I was like, oh, fuck, I totally forgot about that. So thank you, Dom.
Keyboard with a calculator is how a lot of these motherfuckers watch basketball these days. Am I right?
That's exactly.
I will say my favorite Harry spelling thing is just like when it's my little Monday afternoon treat of just like trawling socials to see when the new Nothing But Respect drops so I can, cook my little dinner and hear my friends in my ear and just have a grand old time. And I'm always specifically looking forward to the like 3 to 5 esoteric rhizomatic memes that Harry doctors up for the episode. And inevitably, like in the midst of the most avant-garde, like heady meme you've ever seen, it's just like the type of typo that you cannot get your mind around. And I think it really adds to the allure of like when Harry posts like a 10,000 like on Twitter banger and it just like spells Brent Usher's name wrong. It's like Brett Ursher. I'm like, what the hell is he on?
I want to like defend Harry here because I also am very similar to this, and I am convinced this is like a CIA operation to specifically with
Speak
phones.
on it.
Yes, my phone is spell checking me on things that I know how to spell, and I swear to God they're changing it before I like fire off my tweet, and then I'll have a tweet that will say like real Borny right now in the New Orleans airport or something like that. It's like, okay, you guys are
when you lose the one you want.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dude, how old was Luca in that tweet? That tweet, 2012? Is that a 2012 one?
I think it's 2010 if I'm not
Oh my
mistaken.
God.
It's like really advanced.
Obama won.
Yeah,
Luca has to be like 13 years old during that tweet, right? Like it's got to be like I don't know what the math is on that, but that is one of the all-time like player tweets, non-KD division.
I love the idea of like Luca having a Get Higher 77 style burner, but it's just a group text with like ghetto Homer.
Where he's mostly just there discussing Overwatch, and he has to have a burner to just like hide that he's grinding like 6 hours a day at all times.
Yeah. The Overwatch DMs, there's like 30 of them, and then one DM about like an appropriate amount of money to spend on a first date. Let's see. When you lose the one you wanted, is 2013. You're right, which I think makes him 13.
Wow.
Damn. I mean, that happens,
Dude, exactly.
Unfortunately relatable.
Yeah, it's a classic age to lose the one you
among
wanted.
us?
Who among us, when we were 13, did not lose the one we wanted?
Wait, speaking of typos, have you had this experience of trying to write Giannis's first name and it corrects it to Johnny's with an apostrophe between the I and the S?
Oh, I always thought that was just my phone because I have an Italian friend named Johnny. I didn't realize that was like a systems level problem. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Think about how many more MVP votes he'd have.
If they,
Yeah, got an Italian friend whose first name is Giannis, got a Greek friend whose first name is Giannis, quite relatable.
I like 4 years ago, Trill was doing something. Like Trill didn't like show up to the pod on time or something, or was like giving me a hard time. And I was saying that he's injured, and I said Trill additenta cumbro. And now I must have like right clicked and said this is an acceptable word, because now when I type out Giannis's last name, it tries to change it to additenta cumbro.
I like that.
How often are you texting Giannis's full last name?
Every day. Every day. It's part of my Kalshi kickbacks that I get, so I have to do this. This is the best family man in the league.
Did you
That's what you call that's when Stavros voted for Bernie.
All right. Well, thank you for the spotlighting the blog. It was fun, but I do think I want to talk to New Jersey's own Sportello about clavicular. The one thing I'll say about the blog is I think it speaks to the same thing. Like there's just some growing pains with like all this money getting flushed into little old podcasting, and it's like changing. Actually, one thing I'll say, which I did find to be interesting, as I was perusing some of the Defector comments. One of the things that you're so in it that you forget about this stuff is like most people were just like, what's a video podcast? Why would you watch a video podcast? And it's like, It's so true. Like, who the fuck are these people who are watching video podcasts? But
on Netflix now.
Right. So I don't know.
It's Trill.
I mean,
Trill is the one. Because I've said the same thing, and Trill's like, "Well, I do that quite a bit." I'm like, okay, you're a psycho for that.
The only time, like there's one acceptable time to do it and it's like if you're scarfing down your like fast casual slot bowl and you want to crack open 15 minutes of the Adam Friedland show or whatever, you can do that. But
yeah,
that's about it.
I mean, you guys can't see it now, but like right behind me, I'm playing the most recent episode of No Dunks in a quad box, but it's like each thing is 1/8 of a second off of each other. So it sort of sounds like they have a like auto reverb, like DJ effect. And I, as someone who's, always looking for more stimuli, it's just, it's very soothing to me.
Yeah. I just have different episodes of like No Chill Gill and Steven Jackson talking slightly off. It just feels like I did a whippet.
The telltale heart fucking pounding under the floorboards for any podcast that you haven't listened to for like a long time is the reverb on that.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about clavicular because it's been it's been done to death in a lot of places, but I think Jack, you had a new look on it, and then I think our friend of the show Min Tran had a great piece. Again, coming at it from a sort of different angle. But let's start with the goofy side, which was you had a lot to say about him being a New Jerseyite, which is not something
specifically Hoboken,
New Jersey,
which is quite ironic right now because Min and I went to high school together, and I guess underneath my nose, without me knowing, Clavicular and I grew up together. Although I am 10 years his senior, and I'm still capable of producing my own testosterone. So I have some good, some bad going.
Wait, I think not all of our listeners are going to be familiar with the proper nouns here. So can you just give us a basic outline? What is Hoboken, New Jersey?
Okay. So Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah, I've heard of this online. I've heard of Hoboken online, but
it's a quaint little town situated just outside of this place not many people have heard of, New York City, which is the only place on earth where you can go to a corner store. They call them bodegas there. It is the only place on earth where you can get a slice of pizza. It is the only place on earth where it snows. It's this amazing little place. Actually, the birthplace of something we all know and love called podcasts. So New York is this great little place, and just outside of it is a town called Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken is famous for a number of things before ultimately siring both myself and Clavicular of inflated PR press push fame. Hoboken claims to have invented the game of baseball. That is heavily contested and almost certainly untrue. But they're in like a legitimate war with Cooperstown, New York over like who invented baseball. And there's a great intersection in Hoboken that it purports to be the site of the first ever baseball game, and each corner has like a base on it, which is kind of cute.
That's cool.
Hoboken, also the birthplace of Frank Sinatra. So about half of the town is named after Sinatra style things. You can get overpriced food at a place called Blue Eyes. There's Sinatra Drive. Real Hoboken heads will recognize that New York, New York is the epitome of a Hoboken song rather than a New York song, because he sings about New York with lust in his eyes. He wants to make it there rather than the tiny little town in New Jersey where he is from. I mean, jokes aside, Hoboken is I loved growing up in Hoboken. I have a lot of fondness for it. It is currently truly hell on earth. It has basically become Wakanda for guys who went to JMU. Like it is a place that has been like kind of the same way that they gutted out and privatized the Iraq economy. They have done that to Hoboken, but just with bars that only play Clarity by Zed and Foxes and have so many fucking TVs. And like the TVs that like predate TikTok, where it's just like this TV that kind of looks like a gaming monitor and just plays like gambling odds and then like a compilation of like what 15 years ago might have been America's top home videos. And it's like kind of pre-AI, but is totally rendered obsolete by TikTok or frankly even YouTube for that matter. But someone scammed all the bars into having all that. It's a tricky place, albeit a great place to grow up. And I learned in the New York Times profile of Clavicular, that troubled young man, that he also grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey, which really threw me for a spin, to say the least. What I would say specifically about Clav and Hoboken is that Hoboken is not the type of place where a young man like Clavicular should grow up. Hoboken is very it is heavily ethnically Italian, although there's a lot of different like demographic subgroups, and it jokes aside, is a place with like a lot of like sense of self and culture among the people who actually grow up there. Like if you are not, quote, a BNR, you're born and raised, you're looked at with like a great deal of skepticism. Even if you're someone like me who is technically born and raised, but like your parents were yuppies, like you're kind of like half in, half out. It is a town that is literally organized around its Little League field. Little League is what makes it such that you can never be arrested for the rest of your life, because like your catcher is now the guy who like comes to your noise complaints and stuff. But sometime around the 2000s, Hoboken, due to its proximity to New York, stopped being the place for young creative people who couldn't afford rent in New York, kind of like the analog of Brooklyn, where like, I don't know, in the 90s, it's where all the like Pavement and Sonic Youth guys grew up or like lived. It was just a place where you get a shitty, cheap apartment.
Right.
And instead became this gigantic high-rise city full of people who would commute into New York City, and then specifically commute into New York City for their banking jobs. And it introduced something into the psyche of this small Italian enclave that could not hold. And so you have these young men like Clavicular who grow up with what I theorized being two tiers of inferiority. There's the inferiority built into being not only from a place like New Jersey, but specifically a place that literally exists in New York's shadow. Like it's the most stunning views of New York on earth, but you are literally dwarfed by New York at all times. Like you are constantly frame mugged. You are in the cuck chair.
Right.
You have no choice but to Jester Max. But also, a young man like Braden Peters has no business being in a place like New York. His bitch ass should have been in the suburbs.
Right.
Pardon my French.
Yeah. No.
Okay, that's essential New Jersey perspective. And as someone who was not aware of this troubled young man and has not read any of these profiles, can you guys tell me like why this is happening? Because my impression from the outside is he's like is he like a right-wing streamer guy? I mean, I see Kick and I'm like, well, this guy's racist.
Probably
so like why is this happening?
He's probably racist, almost certainly racist. He's at the very least extremely comfortable with people being racist around him, and he also always says the N-word. So I mean, that's really like kind of if it quacks like a duck style shit. Although he has been PR trained recently to vehemently redirect any conversation away from politics. He'll claim, I mean, basically his company line, his words not mine, are just like politics are gay. Like you shouldn't worry about that type of shit. But I think like Clavicular he's the patron saint of the looks maxing movement, which I feel like with all stories that break containment in the mainstream press is about 5 to 10 years late. Looks maxing was a thing that I found out about probably around the time of the pandemic, like 2020. And I had the distinct sense that I was 5 to 10 years late even then. I mean, it's just something that kids on incel forums have been doing for forever, which is just modifying their appearance due to this belief that the world is exclusively governed by your, quote, sexual market value, and that sexual market value is something that is objective and can be work toward. Like it's like Clavicular's like number one hottest guy. It's just this like random soap opera actor. He's on like
Matt Bonner from the San Antonio Spurs.
Can I tell you? I think when he said Matt Bonner, I think he meant Matt Bomer of Blue Collar fame and
Blue Collar. Yeah.
Sorry, White Collar.
White Collar. Yeah, whatever. Blue Collar. White Collar.
Blue Collar. Yeah.
That famous
Matt Bonner was Blue Collar.
I completely agree with Jack, and I think that this is another thing that's kind of downstream. I think the incel kind of the left behind young men, as everyone kind of concern trolled about them, like particularly every time Donald Trump gets elected, and it's really not a statistically significant part of the population, but there is like some sort of jujitsu that every like opinion piece writer is doing to say like, oh, we are like losing young men and that we need to kind of like focus on this. But this has been a subculture like since I was like a child, like this is something for young men who feel very inadequate and do feel like very left behind. But these type of guys, and particularly looks maxing, is just kind of the latest mutation of this 4chan style of thinking, where it's not your fault that you're ugly, you just kind of are, but there's nothing that you can do about it. And I think that there is a comfort in that these guys kind of have, because if it's something that is just you're born with, you can't do anything about it, and then you're kind of off the hook. You're not responsible for anything you do. You're not responsible for anything you say. You were dealt a bad hand. You're a victim, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that this is kind of the next level of that, where it's kind of, well, I didn't get to go pro in being hot, so I'll watch a guy being pro and hot and watch him match up with like the ASU frat leader or whatever the fuck they're talking about. So it's almost this gamification of a style of inadequacy that has been around for at least 30 years. And it's very kind of bizarre to see it like enter like regular discourse now. And maybe that's just a sign of how like hyper bizarre everything has become at this point in time.
Well, I want to actually stop there, because there's this thing that is interesting about this, is like the question of why is it blowing up? Like what's it going, and you get this weird symbiosis between the subcultures and then the cultural writers, where you get the subculture gets to be platformed by a bigger thing and gets lent sort of some kind of legitimacy, and then the subculture gets a relatively malleable canvas for which to write whatever it believes this is saying about the world. But the actual scale of like the reason why this would be important, presumably, is because lots and lots of people are doing this, but that is just not true. Lots and lots of people are not doing this. No. It's sort of like it's interesting, it's fucking wacky. Like this guy's like injected himself with steroids in front of his grandma. That's fucking weird. But
smashing
it's
his
not
face with a hammer.
Yeah, right. Like that's whoa. But
I thought that was a joke when I first heard that.
Okay, hot take. I think it still is a joke. I think this kid fucks with a lot of people. Like I think like bone smashing, maybe perhaps he's done it, but like bone smashing in general is one of those like really like esoteric, like deep edge of fitness looks maxing shit that like I think all of these kids, the same way the critique with the Gooning article was that like people posited that Daniel didn't realize that kids were fucking with him. Right. I don't think that's true. I think he did know that kids were fucking with him, but like I think something with clavicular is that a lot of people don't realize he's fucking with them.
Yeah.
Right.
But wait, I didn't mean to interrupt that. I'm just a bone smashing truther.
Well, no, I mean, that's another part of this symbiotic relationship is the subculture gets to pull off the greatest trick, which is to make their sort of silly little stuff become real. They get to inject it into the popular imagination and look at all these people dance around and think about it and et cetera. And I'm like, I don't have any issue with anybody writing about this stuff. Like, I think it's you just like you write about what you're freaking assigned to write about, and like you write about what's stuff is happening. So I like it's not that, but it is. I think this is where I want to talk about Min's article is like what I thought was especially prescient about what he wrote about is how this notion that all of the sudden we are talking about like clavicular broke containment, like it's used in the passive voice, like he did not break a containment. He was launched through containment via Kick, which is a streaming company owned by a gambling company called Stake that has $1 million partnerships with Drake and other celebrities that create these clippers, which are like paying, I have no idea who the fuck it is, to clip up videos and impersonate.
It's the same guys who do draft Twitter.
Impersonate fans of clavicular and overload the algorithm via these like teeny micro algorithmic lies where you're scrolling and you're like, another clivicular video. Oh, what's up with this guy? Let me click in, and all of a sudden your algorithm's like tuned to it. But this is being done by a established, I have to say, highly effective and savvy marketing meta. So that's just worth thinking about when you get to the. It's almost like, last thing I'll say is like there is this. We are seeing the complete dissolution dissolvement between earned media and paid media, and this is, and you get this with the fucking fake affiliate badges and all that stuff. And this is another good example where like, is the GQ article? It is nominally earned media because it was covered, but the only reason that it got to the point where GQ feels like they can greenlight a profile is because of a marketing campaign that led to clavicular being culturally relevant. I'm using quotes. So anyway,
I think like Min's piece that we've been talking about just lays out expertly like what is happening here. But I think it's like, to the extent that this kid is interesting at all, or like this media phenomenon is interesting at all, other than just being like the words people are using for 2 weeks that everyone's going to forget in 2 weeks' time, is like, it does feel like this moment or this crystallization of something that's been happening for a long time, which is that, to your point about earned media versus paid media, it does feel like this sign that legacy media and the institutions that we look to kind of demarcate like what's happening in the world versus what's happening on our phone has completely collapsed. Mm-hmm. Like it is just simply the case now that institutions that I would once think of as like, if not completely curative to my social media feed, then at least running at some distance removed from my social media feeds, are now totally captured by social media. I think when everyone goes through their mandated year, like their yearly panic of I need to unplug a little bit, I feel like one of the first things I do when I decide I want to like disentangle myself from the internet is start looking at like traditional media, not to just believe wholesale, but to be like, all right, I want to have some sense of what's going on. Let's like check out the front page of the Times or whatever. There's this conception that obviously what's happening on your phone isn't real, and obviously you can't experience all of the real world at once. And so a helpful shortcut is to go through established legacy media that's been in this shit for a long time and is, for lack of a better word, providing like the normie perspective on what's happening in the world. And I think what the clavicular thing shows is that at the very least, the people who are responsible for culture reporting or internet reporting or just being at the intermediaries of the cutting edge for the rest of the normie population are just 100% in thrall to the same algorithms we are.
Right.
Like there is this concerted push to get claviculars kick clips all over Twitter. It happens over like a 2-week span. And at the end of the 2 weeks, because it's pegged to New York Fashion Week, he has profiles in the Times, in GQ. He's on the Adam Friedland show. He's on fucking like Piers Morgan. He's everywhere. And it's one of those things, kind of like in Sam Chris's piece in Harper's about AI and stuff, where it's like once Sam Altman gives Donald Boat something, every VC thinks because Sam Altman's done it, they also have to do it. And I think what that shows to me is how easy it is right now to retcon a story into relevance, so long as you can identify the relevant pegs. And I think like it's not lost on me or I think anyone that part of the reason that people have interest in what this kid's doing is because we are in a moment of like extremes, right? Like I think what you hear about more and more is quote unquote like highly agentic individuals. And I think like one of the most compelling stories you'll read these days is about like a totally fucking crazy guy who takes all these risks and it seems to work out, because I think it is, as a normal person who doesn't take insane risks, like pumping myself with steroids or like starting a fake AI company or something, there is certainly always this sense of like, I think Sam articulates this well in the piece, like, am I fucking up? Or like, did I miss out, right? You see it in it's like a post-pandemic phenomenon to me, right? Like you miss out on the crypto craze and then the NFT craze, and then you don't learn how to do AI quickly enough to make a fortune, and all of a sudden everyone is injecting themselves with peptides and steroids, and it's just sometime over the last 5 years the meta has become like insanely risky shortcuts that might just work. And I think if you can create a story that fits those narratives, it's going to end up being covered because that's what people want to read right now. That's my take on it.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think what we're talking about here is what you identified earlier, the governing influence of the institutions and like kind of some of these older institutions, particularly media wise, and what they used to do. And the way I think of it is, I think that it's sort of been reduced. Their authority has been reduced from like regular teacher to like substitute teacher now, where like the New York Times no longer has like the authority to like say, no, this is not it. And like all of these media companies and like, you know, your Kicks or whatever, trying to like launch these guys through are kind of like the mean kids. And the substitute teacher doesn't really know how to like adjust to that. And so to kind of, they're in danger of losing their own authority. So they have no choice but to kind of run with this because everything is, you know, falling apart at all times. There is no central authority. And the only thing kind of stopping everything from collapsing into total anarchy is for these institutions like a substitute teacher who have lost control to continue going with whatever insane direction everything is going, because then you don't lose the veneer that, like, you're doing this on purpose, so you can't have lost control because you're doing this on purpose. And I feel like a lot of legacy media is doing this, and I think that is kind of what some of these pieces are like, where it just kind of shows how vulnerable the institutions are and like their authority are, that all of these pieces can kind of, you know, just go up. And I think a lot of that is by design, because I think right wing, you know, everybody knows about Peter Thiel and like his media devices. So I think, you know, some of these erosions of institutions was to like kind of create a little daylight for those guys. I'm also, I think they're also going to find that you can't put this back in the jar. You know, I don't know if this will be good in the long run, but I do think that there's going to be some consequences to this, where you have more people, you know, you can't kind of steer people away from what they don't want to find out either. So like for every clavicular you might have, you know, you also could, I don't want to like go too far with this, but I don't think it's like a mistake that like Zoran Mamdani got elected like kind of recently to some of these things, because these are ideas that seemed insane, like in the Nixon years, like as recently as like 50 years ago, but now are on the table because the governing like institutions can't steer this stuff around. So, and I think that all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And like the last thing I'll say on this, I think that's all true, is that like the function of language here, I think, is a very important one. Like I think most people probably encounter this for the first time through some clip that uses like jester gooning, foids, like SMV. And I think the language is like the impenetrability of the language is like a key part of its attraction, where like, as a writer and as like people on the internet who like consume stuff, I think one of the greatest joys is just seeing the like evolution and bastardization and perversion of like human language. How like we find these things that seem totally insane and repulsive at first, but then like the gate suffix, like that kind of phenomenon where like the thing they describe is actually like there is a referent in the world, and it like kind of is like this beautiful, like often profane, like expansion of like the ways we can like see something abstract and like make sense of that. And like especially like the substitute teacher analogy is basically perfect. Like he's seeing all of his kids say these like crazy ass things, and it's like the only way to regain authority is to just be like, all right, listen up, moids and foids. We're gonna goon max, and I'm just gonna put this Bob Ross video on, and like it'll all be fine.
Yeah. I love that in this analogy, the left response is reminding the substitute teacher we had homework.
Yes.
You know, it's
yes.
like, we were supposed to have a test today.
The left
like,
Well, here's something that the mainstream media isn't touching. The Kevin Durant files. I want to talk a little bit more about this. We did a nice breakdown of it last week, but some, you know, I've been in the streets. I've been talking to Anons. So I want to play you guys something. I have anonymized it for the the user, and I've condensed it down because it's a little long. But I want to play this clip for you guys. It's about 2 minutes long, but it's got some interesting information.
Hey Harry, I just wanted to make a quick video explaining what I saw. So, your first question, how did I know, or how did we know it was Kevin Durant? I personally knew it was Kevin Durant because my mutual at the time, me and him were very, very cool. We had been mutuals for at least 2 years before this situation, right? And my mutual at the time was told that it was Kevin Durant by Eddie Gonzalez. He said that, this was like 5 years ago, he said that like Eddie Gonzalez DM'd him and was like, hey, him and Eddie Gonzalez was mutuals as well, and they were like cool as well, so it wasn't like just a random, DM. Well, my mutual told me like, hey, I'm in this Kevin Durant group chat, I want to add you, and I'm like, sure, like, why would I pass up the opportunity to be in a Kevin Durant group chat? Like, that's a no-brainer, right? So I got added to the group chat. Now, in terms of first witness account, I can't say for sure if Kevin Durant talks shit about anybody. What I can say for sure is that Kevin Durant would refer to himself and the Nets in the first person. So he would be like, oh, I played like ass tonight, or, we stunk tonight, or we couldn't hit a shot tonight. He would refer to himself and the Nets in the first person, which gave credibility to the claims that he was KD. I also muted the chat after a while because the Kevin Durant dick riding got too much for me. Like, Kevin Durant would pop in randomly, send a text, and everyone would act like he's like the funniest fucking comedian on earth. How did this stay a secret for so long? Well, as you can see, I was trying to make this public for a while, only because I never liked Kevin Durant. How they added me to the group chat is beyond me, but I never liked Kevin Durant.
My favorite thing about this clip is that even that it's anonymized, and I heard the unscrambled version, is that you can tell that this person has a New York accent. Even through
100%. Yeah.
I could either confirm or deny that. But yeah, I also, of course, the getting in the Kevin Durant group chat and then being annoyed that it's just dick riding is.
It's just dick riding KD.
It's so good.
It's perfect.
That's how I know that person's a real poster.
Yes,
where the posts weren't even good.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about it. You wrote kind of definitively saying you think it's real. I'm with you at this point. I
had to go prosecutor mode. Yeah. It's like it's my entire career is built around highlighting doubt, and it was a joyous experience for me to try and close out people's doubts. Mm-hmm. Instead, it kind of felt dirty and nasty, so I had fun doing that.
I'm with you. I'm ready to say it's real. I'm also like the more I think about it, the more I'm like it's like other than my own, the larger question about his involvement in Skydio, which I of course don't like, but knew before all of this. You don't need the burners to come out. It's like, I kind of don't think it's a big deal. I sort of am like, if you talk shit about your coworkers, who cares?
The only big deal is that I was not part of it.
Yeah.
It makes me sick to my stomach that because this all happens in like 2021, right? Like, it's a bunch of the people who are in the chat are, if they're not straight up KD hanger-ons, they were like Nets guys. Frankly, I have engaged with Eddie Gonzalez in DMs, and he appears to be like the Ghislaine Maxwell of this whole situation. It makes me fucking sick that in a fan base that has, by conservative estimates, 12 members, at no point did Kevin decide he wanted to chop it up with me. I think I can riff. I would absolutely dick ride him. I would give him all the ha-ha reacts on earth. It breaks.
Which of the 3 cry laughing emojis would you use?
Oh, you got to keep it straight and just go with the regular one or the tears sobbing down. If you ever catch me doing the Elon sideways, the soy cry, you'll know I've been abducted. That's some Honey Badger does what he wants style laugh reaction. But I mean, look, the fact of the matter is the files are real. Exercise skepticism about any file that too neatly comports with your agenda. I think the craziest the files get are him shit talking some of the Rockets players And my guess was that was about a year ago. But like, no, the one about like pods or Cam Thomas or whatever, like there are people who are trying to farm. It's extremely easy to do it. Exercise some caution. I think the main takeaways are just, it's fucking hilarious that KD's like, he does aspire to be a Twitter anom. I think it's almost like a parable of like getting what you've wished for, right? It's also so fucking funny to me that there are guys who are just like a forklift operator who would just like be on their lunch break and KD's like shit talking Kyrie and they're like, yeah, twin, and then going back from their lunch break to do heavy labor. I think it's completely awesome.
One quick thing is like, speaking of parables, made me think like, I wish Defector had broken the story, because then can you imagine it's like Defector breaks the story, Peter Thiel is like, yo, I've done this before, let's sue Defector, let's get Defector fucking and you guys like double go down, you know, for you know, a outing a burner situation.
Yeah, second as farce style shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. We just had Ricardo on to talk about EuroLeague stuff, and one of the things he mentioned sort of offhandedly was that like KD has said he wants to play a year for Barcelona, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking about in Court of Gold, like how that documentary kind of made me understand Durant the person, which is that he's on this like permanent Ronin-like quest to like find the perfect team. And I think more it's that like he just wants to have like every possible experience. Like he can't sit still. And that totally makes sense to me that like, yeah, he wants to be on every team at once. He wants to sort of like simultaneously be above it, but also like be part of the Twitter fray. Like this is a guy who just can't stay on the sidelines like whatsoever. And like, to your point that it's real, I think it's totally real. Like, the Varun Shankar, the Rockets beat reporter, asked him, and KD was just like, "I don't want to talk about Twitter stuff," which is like basically being like, "Yeah, come on, we all know it was me. We got to move on," but I can't say it. So
it's just so awesome that he's like, what, I don't know, top 15 player of all time, and his like player goal is to be Dennis Schroeder, and his personal goal is to be like big business. It's just crazy to me.
It was like his if we had Tankathon back in the day, it'd be like pluses, greatest scoring forward of all time, minuses, really fucks up a riff in the group chat, will not give out more crying emojis than anyone else. I think my thing about Kevin Durant, and I've always kind of I think you guys are completely correct about particularly the Ronin aspect of it, like where he is kind of I don't want to say like a tragic figure, but he is like some sort of cautionary tale about like the grass is always like greener on the other side. And just in terms of like, I think he could be a really interesting fable just in terms of like what is good for us is all that like Kevin Durant's, because all Kevin Durant wants is anonymity and the ability to like shit talk, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that like we have freely. You know, we're not going to have a story written about us if we say that our coworker is mean, you know what I'm saying? Like the last thing that happens to us is we get pulled in like to the side of like an HR thing. And meanwhile, he is like literally $1 billion athlete who's having like one of the most charmed lives imaginable for anyone on this planet, just in terms of like adulation, all of this other stuff. And it is, as Jack said, like just throwing that away to fucking, you know, reply to do memes in the replies of like fucking BDS's fucking threads is awesome. And it is.
Yeah, it's so awesome. His dream is to post like, how ass were the Texans tonight? And then have people quote tweet with women with large asses. Like, it's crazy.
He should announce that he's taking on a new challenge. He's like, I've mastered the posting environment of Twitter. It's time for me to start a Blue Sky account and just like really step into some esoteric discourses over there that like aren't happening on Twitter. And I think he would do very well for himself.
I will say I got some leaks recently, and his thoughts on the Tourette's thing are not what you would have expected.
Let's go.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I found this to be a again, it's hard. It's hard to separate the Skydio stuff, but just interpersonally, like I was like, this is the most likable I've seen him be interpersonally. The original burner, I don't know. It's almost like I wonder if our like media environment has changed. Like the original burner read as like so self-conscious. Why is he defending himself?
Pathetic.
Like, you know, lame. Yeah. But then this burner, I'm kind of like, I don't know. This is like,
yeah, it's like he responded to getting publicly shamed by leaning into that and just being like, you know what, like that is me. Like I am the guy who's like, it's sort of like early Kanye stuff where it's like you sort of own and then like outwardly project that like insecurity as like a part of your art. And like, he's like done ads. I remember when like Instagram Threads came out, he was like joking about being caught on his earlier burner as like a way to like sell his participation in there, which I guess is also cynical, but like it is like, he's just like us, you know, for better and worse.
Yeah, no, I find it really relatable. And yeah, I also think like, you know, our anonymous source had a different opinion, but I thought he was just really fucking funny in them too. Like obviously he says some extremely problematic things, but like he just is kind of a funny guy. And I think more athletes should be empowered to just like kind of chop it up with their fans, and not even their fans, but just like group chats. I think it's hilarious.
That's the real thing about this is we're getting a side of him that feels, whether it's real or not, feels authentic to how we know about KD. And you foil that against someone like, say, LeBron James, who exists almost completely in the fucking Superman 4 crystal of fucking PR, where you can't, you get, like LeBron's like funny, but in like a very like telegraphed way. Like he's very celebrity. He's very like, it's impossible to know like what he actually believes in or what he like knows about, because he is like a PR machine. And that's fine. That's most NBA athletes. I've always said one of the funniest things you can do is listen to NBA podcast with an active player, because they're always going to be dog shit, because it's reduced to they're all PR trained and they're reduced to the most like low hanging platitudes. But then the second they become a former player, they're awesome. They're the best guests that you can have, because they're, and I think that is what Kevin Durant is he's kind of that he's already a former player, even though he's still active. And we are getting kind of a, he has a humanity to him, where even if you don't disagree with what he says, or if you're going to attack him and say that he's like, you know, problematic or he has thin skin or whatever, it is still human, and it does feel authentic in a way that you don't get with like any other star on his level.
Do you guys remember when? Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, as we're talking about all this, I'm like, oh yeah, he's on the Rockets. And like, I just kind of I don't know, like it's just weird that his basketball career is, I don't want to use the word cursed exactly, but like his post Warriors time has just been like you said, like Jack, he's like one of the greatest players of all time. And it's just like, he's still, I don't know, just kind of around. Like it's strange. Like, I wonder if he, I guess if he was like if he was on a championship level team, he wouldn't be doing this, or he can't be on a championship level team because he's doing this. That was my only thought.
I don't know. I think like there is a lot of, just from like my like Nets obsessive perspective, a lot of things were clarified in the DMs to me about like, I do sincerely believe that he was making an earnest attempt to do something in Brooklyn. And I think the most interesting thing from like a narrative perspective from the DMs was, it's the first time that I mean, I guess not publicly, this was private, but it's the first time that he's actually acknowledged that kind of like all of the nonsense that broke that team apart largely through Kyrie actually did kind of break his heart. Like he's constantly either jokingly or seriously saying he misses like Ben Simmons, James Harden, whatever. But then there's that one like kind of vulnerable message about, there's the one really funny one where he's like, can't believe he expected the white European to play ethical hoops. But there's like a very like felt and real one of like Kyrie's behaving for Luka and wouldn't give me and James an inch. And I thought that was a fascinating look into his psyche too, because like, I do think in his heart of hearts, Brooklyn was his opportunity to finally have a name for himself and like do something with his friends and succeed. And I get it, man. Like the way it broke down, like definitely broke my heart, and I had nothing to do with it. I was just like a fucking guy watching. Like it is probably heartbreaking to finally kind of like actualize yourself in your career and then get hit with like the craziest sequence of events through COVID, and then Kyrie posting like actual Hitler shit and all that, and then have it all fall apart and be back on your wayward journey. So I think, it makes me really excited for the Tell All podcast in like 15 years when he has fully unlearned his PR training.
It was also Hitler shit just like a few years too early. Like if he had posted
yes,
that,
dude, yes,
if he had posted that this year, it's like I'm not even sure he's suspended.
No. He would get like a Times profile.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it never fails to astonish me that he is on the Mavericks when October 7th happens, and while playing for the Adelsons manages to say basically jack shit and stay completely out of trouble. I mean, it really is one of those things of like the big three Brooklyn Nets are one of the most cursed historical accidents of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story for another day.
The only other thing I wanted to say about the KD thing is like I saw, and this all got mixed up. This was like Evan Sideri's dying breath before he was affiliate badged. Another win for the Nothing But Respect Army. Is he tweeted basically erroneously that all of the boardroom staff members had been laid off, which is not quite true. It's like two or three of the editorial staff got laid off, out of the blue, which is bad. That sucks, but these are the nature of this fake news shit. Is like it's like obfuscating a different thing into a bigger thing. But it made me think about the boardroom as a concept and how the boardroom was this early in this like 2008, 2009, 2010 zone where like LeBron was starting a media company and Kevin Durant, and like what the vision of controlling your narrative is creating your own independent media company. And as a vision to control one's own narrative, that has like completely failed as a kind of vehicle to fund other things in entertainment and like maybe make some money in that way. Sure, it's fine, it's worked. But it reminds me of like when Zuckerberg put like $200 million in to fix New Jersey public schools, and it just like got lit on fire like immediately. That seems to be what Kevin Durant like created a media company to try to control the id of Twitter, and like looked into it and dumped all the money in, and it just like immediately exploded like it had touched lava, and like now the boardroom functionally doesn't do anything. It's just a strange experiment.
It's like how in 2010 Jeffrey Epstein started jeffreyepsteinsports.com at the behest of this now deceased strange man who was advising him to try to get some better SEO. So he's like, to get people to not associate you with like sex crime, you need to have like some real fire takes about Rajon Rondo on the blog, and that will really change the world.
I swear, bro. He probably fucking got a job at Grantland, dude. It was so easy back then.
Look, this isn't going to be popular. He kind of knew ball, dude. He did kind of call that Mavericks thing like from downtown. I mean, nobody was thinking that Mavericks team was winning, especially when they went out to the We Believe Warriors like in such ignominious fashion. Is that a word?
No, he definitely, I mean,
I love the idea of Jeffrey doing like 50 straight posts about those Thunder teams to make it such that Jeffrey Epstein Young had a completely different SEO. Like calling LeBron the little saint.
I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you to both of you for joining us. Sam, I hope your case goes well. We're all thinking of you. Stay strong.
Yeah, it's worse things have happened. And yeah, I mean, like if I have to go to prison for a little bit, it's fine. They'll put me in the Magneto jail. And like Shia LaBeouf, I'll be back. I'll be back on bourbon by Sunday. So that's right.
Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah. And thank you, Jack, for joining us and for, your legal work as this podcast lawyer. I just, if you need to like step back from our many active cases to deal with Sam, take all the time you need. Like, we appreciate you.
Yeah. I'm going to get him on podcast probation. He's just going to be barred from talking about age cap discourse for the next 6 months, but but it'll be fine.
They put an ankle monitor on me to like stop me from weighing in on if Tourette's is good or not.
It's the only ankle monitor that requires you leave the location for a certain period of time.
If you come within 10 feet of a tiny microphone, it starts beeping.
It's like the Hassan Piker dog shop.
Yeah, Sam's like, yeah, I suck. I mean, I have a good lawyer. He's doing it for free. What's that called? Fucking Adam Bona. What's it? All right. Goodbye.
Thank you for having us, guys. This is fun.